Good afternoon, everybody. First, I want to thank Coach Kelsey, for playing this game. It's tough for us to get, by games like this, and I was impressed, obviously, with his team coming into the game, and then after playing him, I'm even more impressed. And to take the amount of talent that he has and get them on the same page. I told him after the game, I thought, the best thing they do is they share the basketball. It's a very unselfish team, very well coached. They play off each other. And when you have a point guard like, Zero Brown, like I saw him when he was a freshman in high school. We were recruiting a kid at the same high school. And to see his growth has been really cool. Obviously not tonight or today it wasn't cool, but, he makes everybody go. And when you have an unselfish, lottery pick like him, it just makes everything a lot easier. And then, you got McNeely and Conwell, guys who can, make shots. Just really, really impressed with their team. Proud of our guys for battling. I thought we competed for 40 minutes. Especially in the second half, we wanted to win that last 4 minutes. We didn't do it, but our guys battled, and give our guys credit for doing that. We're down a couple guys, rotation guys, and Jackson Pavlesky was phenomenal today. But just proud of our guys for competing.
Coach, if you could, Louisville puts a lot of pressure on you offensively and defensively. They play at a very high tempo. How do you think your team responded to that? And just in general, what's it like to play against such a high tempo squad?
Yeah, I think, they want a bigger pace. We want a better pace as well. We played St. Mary's the other night, and it was a completely different game. They want the, pace in the 60s. I'm sure Pat wants it in the, high 70s, 80s. And I think, like you said, they put so much pressure on you defensively to work, to get the ball across half court. And, then they deny you. And, their length is really good. And then, if you score, they're putting so much pressure, back. And that's one thing we do really well is, transition after makes. And, a couple times we didn't get back matched up, and McNeely bangs a three. And, we charted their 105 threes coming into the game. I think, 25 were off of driving kicks, and then 22 were off of one-pass transition shots. So that's always a big key, when you play these guys. But I think the most importantly, they're very efficient. You can get a lot of possessions and turn the ball over and miss some shots, but they're just really efficient. I don't know what their points per possession is, but I guarantee it's really high, every game they played. So I think the best thing is just very efficient. Yeah, I thought we did a good job. We for the most part, I think first half, I think we had 11 turnovers. Second half, we had 6. And if you look at the points off of turnovers, we were -9, and then the second chance points, we were -21. Those two things, coming in were a big key for us. Take care of the basketball against their pressure, and then, blocking out. And, they shot 50% and got 17 offensive rebounds back and capitalized on those offensive rebounds. That's probably the third way they get their, threes is off those offensive rebound kickouts. But, I thought we did a good job. We moved the basketball. When we did move the basketball, we were trying to get the ball in the paint, knew we'd get some good shots based on how aggressive they were. So we tried to use their aggression, to our advantage. Yeah, Aiden didn't play a whole lot last year. Semi-local kid down in Elizabethtown. He's gotten better, and we put him in the game against St. Mary's, and I thought he played some really good minutes against their front line, 7'2", 7 foot. And Kier's still growing. He's a redshirt freshman. Didn't play last year, and he's a long, athletic kid for us, and can guard multiple positions. And those guys are going to keep getting better. But they came in and competed in an environment like this against a top 5 team in the country. I was proud of those guys.
Jeff, in terms of a scouting report against Louisville, how much pressure do they put on you offensively? Like, just in terms of you have to keep up with them as opposed to kind of like in the vein of the best defense is a great offense.
Yeah, I think they just put so much pressure on you. It starts with Brown. He gets the ball out of the net, and he's gone, and he's trying to get to the rim. If you overhelp, he's going to kick to McNeely or Conwell, and they're going to make a three. Those are two 40% three-point shooters, and we lost them a couple times. You saw the other night against Kentucky. I mean, if you overhelp on the big and they kick to one of those two, it's a 3-point shot. But you have to do it consistently, war after war after war. And at some point, they're trying to wear you down where you're going to make a mistake and not get matched up. And I'm sure they probably get 10 to 14 points, just by doing that, putting that pressure offensively on you. So you really got to be attentive. You have to communicate a lot. And we did that probably, I don't know, 3/4 of the game, but they made us pay a couple times.
Coach, you guys just played, maybe two of your toughest games this season, St. Mary's and Louisville today. So what are you guys taking away from these two games, especially with playing in bigger environments?
Money for our budget. Yeah, I think obviously great opportunities for our program, for our players. St. Mary's it was the same thing. I thought they were good before we played them, and they're really, really good. That road trip for us felt like 2 road trips. We were gone for a couple of days and felt like 2 weeks. But proud of our guys for coming back from that long road trip. We took a red eye back, got back Wednesday, and went light on Thursday and into preparing for this team. You can't simulate what their pressure is. We try to emulate a press, run and jump, and it's hard to do in a short amount of time. And we're down a couple bodies as well, so I think we had 10 guys to practice, so it's hard to do, but they're hard to prep for anyway. And but it was really good for our guys to play in an environment like this. CW Network was awesome. For our guys, we don't get as many opportunities, so just good growth, and I was happy the way we competed.
Jeff, you kind of mentioned in your opening statement, but you've been around a lot of high-level talent teams in your past. To be able to put a group together like this, in an off season and have them playing like this early, what does that take, and how impressive is it what they've done?
Yeah, I think it takes great leadership, right? It takes maturity. And I was telling the announcers before the game, when I was at Stony Brook, we played at Rutgers, and they had just beat Seton Hall. Seton Hall was ranked 17th in the country. And we ended up beating Rutgers that game, and there was a letdown. And you can always tell a mature team, how they're going to respond after a huge rival win. I was hoping that was like Wednesday or Thursday, but they responded the right way, and that's great leadership. That's maturity. When I was at Ohio State, I think we were 26-0 in the country, and that team brought their A game every single game, didn't matter who they played. And that's what you saw, tonight, out of this team. I thought we did a good job. I thought we made them work. I thought we made them earn some things, which I'm sure Pat enjoyed in a sense of his guys competing. But to see them respond after a big rival win like that this way, that's very impressive.
You've mentioned the importance of what this game means as a bye game for your budget, and it seems like more Power 4 conferences are kind of going away from that, scheduling harder and harder non-conference games. Just what's your pitch to conferences and teams around the country of why bye games are important?
Well, the whole landscape's evolving and changing. I think you see these Power 4s going to 20 to plus league games, playing in these MTEs the way they're playing, neutral high major games. And for us, these are very valuable for a lot of reasons. And I think if you look at, Pat, like we don't get a lot of bye games. It's hard for teams to do it. And, the 2 teams that agreed to do it were St. Mary's and, Louisville. So for us, it's big. And, for him to, play a good mid-major team, says a lot about, his confidence level. And, he was at that level. He was doing the same thing, trying to get these games. And, St. Mary's, if you look at their schedule, they're playing really, really good mid-major teams, and they're beating everybody. So, I credit Pat, and Coach out at St. Mary's to play these games. They mean a lot to us, and, they don't have to do it.
Logan Adams has been amazing basketball. A couple career performances from your guys. Jackson tied his career high with 28 points, and JJ came in with 6 on the season and scored 11. What did you see from that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Jackson was the best player on the floor a lot of times, today, and we asked him to do a lot and to handle the pressure that they, gave you. He's working the ball, and he drew 10 fouls, and he does a great job of putting the defense under duress by getting to the paint a lot. He finished tonight. I was glad to see him be aggressive. Shooting the basketball is something we need him to continue to do, but he left every ounce of energy on the floor tonight. And, JJ's going to be really good. He's a true freshman, just very, very athletic, made some good defensive plays, and he's going to continue to grow. And I thought he made some great, offensive plays as well, and he's just going to get better and better as, the more minutes he plays. Appreciate everybody. Good to see you. Have a safe travel home.
Kobe, if you could just kind of talk about your mentality as kind of the guy who comes in. It feels like you really try to change the temperature in the room. What is your focus when you come into those games?
Yeah, Mikel and, the starters do a great job of getting us rolling early. So, I kind of take the job of bringing that second group, that second unit in and making sure we keep that same standard, that same energy, and even at sometimes, try to make it even more. But, we had a great overall team effort tonight from a bunch of guys, a lot of sharing the ball, a lot of great plays. So we just got to keep it going.
Isaac, Coach Bowles was just talking about how impressive it was after a Kentucky win and like you guys had the other night and the atmosphere for you guys to be so focused. What's it been like since then, and how much is maturity help when you don't have a letdown?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that was a big win last week, but, PK preaches and preaches the next thing. Like, we moved on past that game. We were focused on this game, and we knew Ohio wasn't going to be a slouch. I got a ton of respect for Coach Bowles and his squad. So we knew coming into the game they're a really high-powered offense, and we knew that. And, we stuck to our deal on defense, our MIGs, our safeties, all that. And we just had 2 good days of preparation, and we knew this wasn't going to be an easy game, so we had to come out and play, no matter what. Like I said, we're always worried about the next thing. So now we're moving on to our next game.
Yeah, I guess your teammates who have come in after the game against Kentucky and certain others have talked about how much of your defense will kind of a lead to be your offense, and you get a ton of looks from a transition 3 tonight. Can you just talk about everything that goes into that? The sort of I guess the mentality that you have to try to create the chaos that leads to those fast break chances.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about defensive keys to the game and offensive keys to the game, and 99% of the time the first offensive key is getting a stop, because I think we're a high-powered offense and we're best when we're getting it up and down in transition. So you can't do that when you're not getting stops. So we got to get stops and get it out quick. And when we're hitting transition threes, guys like Kobe are pushing it in transition. It leads to great things. So stops, leads to good shots on the other end for us.
Yeah, it's really cool. This is going to be the first time I've ever been able to play in college in Cincinnati. So, I'm going to have a lot of family and friends there, but it's going to be an exciting game, big-time matchup, and, I'm blessed to be able to play back at home.
Proud of you guys. Obviously coming off a huge win against the number 9 ranked team in the country, a lot of eyes are still going to be on that, but what do these 5 games against such a big program like this mean for the high-ranked program?
Like I said, we respect Ohio. We respect Coach Bowles. We respect that program. We knew this wasn't going to be a slouch, like I said. They're a high-powered offense, so we knew coming into the game, early game, Saturday, sometimes you can, especially after a big win, you can come in, first 4 minutes and not be on your game. But, PK preached. We had 8 a.m. shoot-around this morning, and we brought the energy and shoot-around. So, you got to come out strong against a team like that, and, I thought we did tonight or today.
Yeah, I would say, I don't think we approach any game any different than we do. Kentucky is a big-time team, big-time rivalry, so, of course, a lot of eyes are going to be on that. But, I think it's more about what he's preaching, especially right now, about the process, going about every single day like it's, a national championship game, a Final Four game, and, results will take care of themselves.
Isaac, you got the card started today with a big 3. Last week, or on Tuesday against Kentucky, it was Ryan that got started with a big 3. Just how important is it to kind of get those threes going early and to hit them early?
Yeah, it's definitely important. And, I got excited in shoot-around this morning because PK always gives us a first play of the game, and he drew it up for me, so I was really excited about that. But, yeah, knocking them down early for a shooter, it definitely, boosts your confidence. You see one go down early, you're more confident to take the next one. And, we got shooters all around, and I think that's what makes us so special. And when you see, when we're knocking them down like that, we're going to be very tough to beat.
How much do you guys look up at, and under the big scoreboard now they have like the points per possession and the 4 factors. How much do you guys even glance at that during the course of a game, and are there specific number benchmarks that Coach Kelsey is wanting you to hit for those categories?
Yeah, we look at them, I think, just about every media timeout. Those are right now our big like 4 factors that go into winning. So I think it's points per possession, offensive rebound efficiency, overall efficiency, and turnover percentage. So those are all massive numbers and analytics that go into basketball. So we do keep a a high emphasis on those things, and we constantly are going through them throughout the game. Yeah. So for this game, I guess when we went into the 8-minute media, their points per possession, I think it was like 1.1 something. So our goal was to get it at 1.0 to end the game. So I think we just fell a little bit short, but those are things that we keep track of all the time.
Isaac, Coach Kelsey always says he doesn't want guys that are just suburban jump shooters. You came out today, had those 2 big blocks at the rim, had the nice athletic finish at the rim. How important is it to you to show that you can do other things besides just shoot the ball and kind of lock in, do those things defensively and finishing at the rim?
Yeah, it's very important. That's one of the reasons I came here, because I knew, playing in PK's system, like you said, you can't just sit out there and shoot threes. He wants all of his guards, 1 through even the 5-man, he wants everybody to be able to touch the paint and make plays. So, that's what I've been working on all off season, and I'm trying to show it in the games now.
For both you guys, how far has Sananda come from since he got here till now, even from the the first exhibition game until now, and what do you kind of see with him what he's doing out there?
Yeah, he's been great. Especially seeing when he first started, just learning the system, learning to play with new guys. He gets more and more comfortable every single day. He got on me about that bad lob later in the game, but he's just one of those players that you love to play with, that loves just being out there on the floor, giving great energy. And he's only scratching the surface of what he's really about to tap into.
For either of you guys, and you were talking earlier about offensive rebounding being one of the important factors for you guys. I think you outscored them on second chance points, I think like 26-5. What does that do for you guys when you're able to follow up a miss, get that second, even third or fourth opportunity and get the bucket there? How much does that help lift you guys up?
Yeah, offensive rebounding is, huge part of our offense. We send 4 guys to the glass every time, trying to get a second chance, and we always try to get threes, kick out threes off those second chances. And I think, if you get a second and third opportunity, then you hit a 3, I think that's just like a kill shot to the defense. So, we preach that. And then vice versa, defensively, we try to limit the other team's offensive rebounds as well.
Kobe, you played for PK at Charleston. Obviously, he wants to push the pace. I think last year, with how many injuries the team had, that was kind of hard to do at times. Can you see a difference this year, just based on how fast the team is playing versus maybe on what it was at for most of the season last year? And just can you speak as someone who played on like that team at Charleston that was super fast, like what that can do to teams, just during the course of a game?
Yeah, and we're still getting yelled at every day on film about not being fast enough. So, I think the pace is just kind of what gets our offense and just gets us going. Getting up and down the floor. We got numbers, probably one of the best, deepest benches in the country. So that gives us plenty of opportunities to get guys rest, get guys back in the game, and making sure that we're always being fresh and doing all the things to our standard in our system. I think last year, no 2 teams are going to be exactly the same, and unfortunately last year got dealt with a bunch of tough injuries. But I think Chucky and Fat and Rain and all those guys, they got us started. They ran the show at the pace that they needed to run it at for them to have success. But, yeah, they did a great job, and we're doing a great job, and we just got to keep learning.
Isaac, I got a 2-parter for you. One not so serious, but were you trying to catch a body on that one drive to
Yes. I was.
How different is playing at this pace for you, given coming from Virginia, where it's not as up and down? And did you, in high school or traveling team or anything, has this been part of your past at some point?
I've never really played this fast, but I knew that's what I was getting into when I committed here, and that's the reason I committed here. Somebody told me like I've already shot more transition threes here than I did like at UVA, which is crazy, but I believe it. But yeah, it's super fun, playing this system like this as a shooter. You got guys like Kobe, Michael, Ryan that push the pace, and they find their shooters, and I just have to knock it down. That's all I have to do. So I'm thankful to play with guys like that and playing a system like this because it's a whole lot of fun.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully this is quick because I'm going to run up to campus. There's 9 minutes left in the first half of the women's soccer game against that team down the road, right? First round of the NCAA tournament, 0-0, 9 minutes left in the first half. KFD coaching them up. I'm proud of our guys. I obviously coming off a game with the magnitude of the one the other night in terms of the hype and you worry a little bit about human nature, whether there'd be some sort of letdown, but that just goes against everything that we believe in. We prepare for South Carolina State with the same intensity that we prepare for the team down the road the same way that we prepared for this game. And I thought our guys were phenomenal in preparation. They were on details. We had a couple great days of practice. And, played against a good team tonight. I've known Jeff Bowles for a long time. Kind of came in the business at the same time. He was an assistant at Ohio State when I was at Wake Forest and then at Xavier. Kind of both became head coaches around the same time. And they run good stuff. They got good players. They got an older team. I think their point guard is a really, really good player. And, I thought our guys played hard. 44% of our misses we got back, which is great. 12% turnover rate by us, which is great. 68% assist rate, which is great. On the defensive end, I think there were ebb and flows throughout the game. There were some times where we let our foot off the accelerator a little bit, but our guys caught themselves. I thought at halftime there was great GBT in the locker room. That stands for great basketball talk before the coaches ever got in there. And even down the stretch when there was 4 minutes left in the game, the guys were aware of where their points per possession were. And they were like, man, let's get that down, which means let's get 3 stops in a row and get it from 1.06 and try to get it to 1.03. I don't know what it ended up, but I love that type of stuff. Coach Bowles gave our team a great compliment when I talked to him after the game. And I agree with him. He said you have a very, very, very unselfish team, and I would agree with that. We give up good for great. Guys understand that we got great depth. They cheer on their teammates. They support their teammates when they go in the game and they come out. It's fun. That's what our goal is to have the number one culture in the country. But you never arrive at that. It is constant vigilance in everything you do, including the next practice when we get together in a day or so. So overall, fortunate to get a win, proud of our guys, and excited about the opportunity to go up to Cincinnati and play against Coach Miller and the Bearcats, and it'll be a big-time non-conference game.
Logan Adams, mid-major basketball. Coach Bowles talked just about how grateful he was to get this bye game against you guys. Bye games are something that's not happening as consistently with top-tier programs like this. Tell me about just the process of scheduling a game like this, especially at.
Yeah, I mean he's got a hard job because the way I'm not going to get all into scheduling science and the metrics and the net and all that stuff because that I just don't want to talk about all that stuff. But for a team like that who's like in the 100s of KenPom, that's for a Power 5 team like we are, like those aren't the ones that you like run at. You just don't, because they're really good. And unfortunately, the way the net works, I might have this wrong, but like if you play like a team that's in the high 300s, it's unfortunate, but like you got to try to beat them by 7,000. And that stinks, and I don't like that. I don't like when you're up 30-something points, you don't have your walk-ons in yet. But that's how it is. That's how the formulas work. And when you play a team like this, like I was a team in the 100s for several years when I was at the mid-major level, and it was hard for us to get games. It's hard for them to get games because you're going to play against a really well-coached team that older veteran guys. They had 4th and 5th year dudes. They had a really good point guard. They have a good scheme. And if you're not on it, a team like that will come here and bust you in the mouth. Those kids weren't afraid. They were gritty. They were tough. And they got our best shot. We had the ultimate respect for them. So as much as he appreciates the game, I appreciate him because I have a lot of respect for him and how he coaches and how he runs his program.
Was talking about the letdown, and he was saying he was hoping he might catch you on a little bit of a letdown, but he said he thought the maturity. How much is that a factor when you've got guys that are so much older? I know you can preach it, but to go out and do it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the older thing. What's their competitive makeup? I mean, we got some young dudes over there that have that same mentality. Like we're intentional about in the recruiting process about a lot of things outside just the X's and O's and the measurables and things like that. Like, all those other things matter to us. You know, how tough dudes are, how competitive, their basketball IQ. Do they love their teammates? Do they make people around them better? And, you know, I came in guns a-blazing the other day, the practice after, and we had our first meeting, and we were cleaning up stuff because we got together early in the day so that we can put the last game to bed and then just focus on these guys, because we were only going to have 2 days prep because we had a day off after the game the other night. And, you know, it was like, you know, when you just get that sense, I thought I was going to go after and just be on everything, and then no. Those dudes were leaning forward. They were finishing my sentences. I just got the sense right away that we're good. They're going to be in a great frame of mind. We had spirited, competitive practices, and they gave these guys the ultimate respect because it was the most important game in the history of Louisville basketball. It was. It really was.
Absolutely. Coach Bowles commended the team for just the fact that you guys play at such a high pace, but you still took care of the ball. You talked about the 12% turnover rate. How important is it that you keep that turnover rate low, playing at this speed? And is that more just based on the system? Is it the individuals? How important is that?
Well, I mean, that plays into – there's 4 big factors to winning basketball on the offensive and defensive end. It's effective field goal percentage, it's free throw rate, it's effective field goal percentage, it's free throw rate, which is your field goal attempts per free throw attempt or vice versa, offensive rebounding percentage, and turnover percentage. How many points – because points per possession are everything, and ours was like off the charts tonight. It was like 1.2, 1.3, something like that. How many points do you get in that possession when you turn it over? 0. That's an empty possession. So, I mean, it's no secret. In every game, it doesn't matter if it's football, it doesn't matter if it's basketball, whatever it is, like, turnovers are bad. I think the back of your bubblegum card says a lot about the type of turnover team that you're going to be. If you have high turnover guy. Now, sometimes you'll take a high turnover guy because he is extraordinary in other areas, but that assist-to-turnover ratio is important. And our guys, I mean, the other night, I thought that was a big key to the game, that, you know, we had high assists, low turnovers, and did the same thing tonight, valuing that basketball. We always say, I read this one time, the ball is the program. That's the program. All the stuff you got going on, that basketball on that floor is the program. Value the program. Value the basketball.
Pat, why was it important to you to have those advanced analytics put up on the scoreboard so you can
notice
see it
it
live?
I was waiting for somebody to notice it.
Well, I also noticed that you added free throw rate. It
Well,
wasn't
for a while. I mean,
first game.
the people around here are ridiculously awesome. They are awesome. Like our game ops people, everybody that runs the Yum Center, they kill it. Like something goes wrong, they fix it right away. I mean, they are intentional. They are 25 strong. They are elite. But like, I looked up and it was all zeros, and it like went haywire because technology's great until it isn't, right? And so it goes off, and I'm like, man, I need to see points per possession. I need to see turnover rate. I need to see offensive rebounding percentage. And I think they got it in the under part of the scoreboard. So we came up with that idea like hours before our first game. And I was like, hey, can we get in their, you know, our crew? And they're like, we'll figure it out. And they like brought NASA in, and they were like all kind of crap, and then figured out some way to get it up there. And then it went haywire tonight, and I felt like I was like, my head was spinning like Linda Blair in The Exorcist.
A standard, like, points per possession? Like, is there a standard number that you want to see for certain things?
You want to be above 1 point per possession. Offensively, you want to hold your opponents in a perfect world below. It's all, if you look at KenPom, like your overall rating is your points per possession. You just multiply it times 100. I mean, if like our guys know now, like if we have a game where we're like 1.2 or higher, like they know we were cooking with grease, right? And if we're holding it, that to me, that's way more important than the old school. The old school stats. Now those old school stats play into those things, but the big four. It's the big four on the offensive end. It's a big four on the defensive end. And if you win 3 of 4 in those things, you're going to win most of the game. But it's effective field goal rate, it's free throw rate, it's turnover percentage, and it's offensive rebounding percentage. And then it goes both ways. So I think it'll be cool for our fan base to start looking at those because there's such a advanced basketball mind fan base. Like, we have a really smart basketball. Like, I got 20,000 assistant coaches up in the stands that know what the crap they're talking about, which is not great sometimes for the head coach. But I thought it was pretty cool that we put it up there. I think a couple NBA teams did it last year, and Jonah got wind of it, and we just said that we thought it would be kind of cool.
Yeah, Kobe was in here and was talking about just at the pace of play, and he said that you guys are still trying to harp on them to play even faster. You guys are ranked 23rd in tempo on a KenPom right now, so I'm just curious as to what faster looks like to you,
Faster,
and just
because
how much
you
that
play
helps.
fast doesn't mean you shoot quick. Right. But the pace from whether clapbacks, getting the ball out of the net, getting in, getting down the court, or on misses, tilting the floor, getting downhill, and just putting pressure on the defense early. But we're going to hunt great. We're going to hunt great. And if that great happens in the first 3 seconds of the shot clock, great. If it happens in the last 3 seconds of the shot clock, great. But just because you play fast doesn't mean you shoot quick. But pace, ball out of the net, get it up the floor, tilt the floor, defensive rebounds, 5 guys running. I'm just a big believer that in coaching, it's not what you teach, it's what you emphasize. You can't emphasize everything, but that's one thing we truly emphasize. Guys are graded on every single transition. If your job was to get it out of the net, get it in, did you do it to our standard? If your job was to run to the corner, did you run at breakneck speed? Or did you jog? Or did you stop and coast into the corner? They're human beings. There's pilot error constantly. Nobody's going to be at 100% all the time, but it's a fun way to play. That's why I talk about, you look at Michael was hooping. You talk about some of those other guards that decide to go somewhere else, fine. You come to Louisville, we're going to hoop. We're going to have fun. We're going to play fast. We're going to share it. Why wouldn't you want to play here?
First off, Pat, congratulations on getting out of this game unscathed, without an injury. Secondly, piggybacking on what Brooks was talking about there, I think you guys are one of the 15 teams averaging, more than 100 points a game. Obviously, it's early, but do you think that's tied to, an importance of, coaches realizing an importance of analytics? Is it the net? Is it a combination of those factors, or
what?
The net ranking you were talking about?
It's not about the score and the net ranking. It's just be efficient. Be efficient. Be efficient on the defensive end and those 4 big factors. Be efficient on the offensive end and that big factors. There's different ways to do it. Coach Bennett won national championships playing a really slow pace, but his efficiency was off the stinking charts on some of those teams. It's not what you teach, it's what you emphasize. There's a million ways to skin a cat. There's a lot of different ways to play. We think this is the best way for us to play, and we recruit to our style, and we try to be as efficient as possible in those areas. But we don't go into the game going, hey, we got to hit the net. It's just be great in our process, right? How do you have a high offensive rebounding percentage? You pursue the ball every single time. How do you have a good turnover rate? You value the ball. How do you have a good effective field goal percentage? You execute your stuff and you hunt great shots. You take enough good ones, enough of them are going to go in at a pretty high percentage. Free throw rate, get fouled. It's the most efficient shot in the game. We were 44% on our free throw rate today. That's ridiculous. The other end, we fouled too much. We got to keep them off the free throw line. You want to keep your opponent from doing what is most efficient. Free throws are efficient. We got to guard without fouling. It's hard. You ask them to play really, really hard, but you got to guard intelligently also.
Coach Isaac was in here and talked about one of the main draws to coming here was his opportunity to show more of his game.
Yeah.
You said you didn't want suburban jump shooters. He went down there, had 2 big blocks, had the athletic finish at the rim. Just kind of talk about his development this year.
Yeah, that's why he came here. He wants to hoop, be an all-around player. Attack the rim, get fouled, score at the rim, make threes. We have this thing called hard plays on the ball that we chart. And if you have an opportunity to make a hard play on the ball, that might be a loose ball, right? Ball's on the floor. Did I make a hard play on the ball? Did I dive on it? Did I put my teeth on it before the other team did? You get a 1-for-1 or 0-for-1 for that. If a guy gets a clean shot at the rim, are we letting him shoot it, or are we going to try to, we call it beat it up, right? And those were a couple of open layups, and and they saw a ray of light, and Isaac just went in. He's an athletic cat. That was two big-time hard plays on the ball, and I thought it gave us a ton of energy on that. But, yeah, I mean, Isaac's a really good all-around player, and I think he's having a ball playing in our system.
Thank you. Soccer. 0-0 halftime.
Go Cards.